everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Click-Clack Chat, where I, your happy host, Goblin Katie, interview members of the TTRPG and DICE community, and we talk about what's going on with their lives, what they're up to, and we chat about their dice, because that's what we're all here for. But
Yeah. Yep.
tonight is our first episode, and my first guest is the wonderful Lauren Urban.
Oh.
Lauren is a dear friend and was actually the person who kind of suggested this, so it seemed only fitting that she be my first victim. So, Lauren, how are you doing?
I am not a victim. I am happy to be here. Was it really the person who suggested it? You have so many dice. I cannot believe I was the first person to ever suggest this. There's gotta be.
I had thought about it, but I hadn't actually been motivated to do it, and you kind of gave me the motivation.
By posting on Twitter.
Yes, great things happen from Twitter posts, apparently.
I'll take it. I'll take it. If good things happen, then hey, that's something out of social media that was good that happened. Okay.
It's a win.
All right.
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Lauren, why don't you tell
Hi.
us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I'm an Aries. No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently the content coordinator over at Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. I play Neb on Children of Erte over on the Demiplane channel. And for those D4 fans and also Idle Champions fans, I play Orkira, wherever Fire and Resurrections are sold.
Excellent.
Although, at the moment, Orkira's on vacation? In retirement? Something like that.
Something like that. Somewhere between.
Yeah.
It's kind of Witch or Kira.
Yeah. Once we finished up with Court of the Raven Queen on C&E, it's the first time in a very long time that I haven't had Orkira to look forward to. Like,
Yeah.
I've had breaks from her, but it was the first time I haven't, she's not scheduled to be anywhere. And so, yeah, it's been interesting to think about, okay, what would she do if she had a vacation?
That is a good question. What would she do?
Panic.
There's got to be someone I can help somewhere.
Well, and minor spoilers for Heroes of the Plains. How Heroes of the Plains ends has very interesting ramifications for what Orkira does going forward. And if I ever end up playing her on another stream or anywhere else that is happening after Heroes of the Plains, I'll be dealing with that. So yeah, I think at this moment she is working on herself, which is one of those weird things people say when they go to like a fancy spa retreat.
Right.
But in reality, she's working on herself.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about Orkira? Because she is an iconic character within the live streaming TTRPG world. She
Aww.
is well known. She is well loved. But tell us a little bit about how you came up with her and the things you've done playing her.
So Orkira is a Dragonborn cleric who I came up with because when I was working at D&D Beyond, we were doing a live stream. We were starting up a live stream. And I do what I normally do when I'm joining a new campaign or a bunch of people are coming together, which is I kind of wait for everybody else to get an idea of what they want to play, and I fill in the gap. And one of the reasons I play a lot of clerics is because often that gap is, oh dear, do you need healing?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, gonna play a cleric. Gonna play a cleric, and I'm a fan of playing non-humanoid characters, as far from the standard humanoids as possible. So I'm always looking at Dragonborn and Turtles and stuff like that. So we went Dragonborn, and the Phoenix part of it was because the hype for Mordenkainen and Soma Foes was happening. The book wasn't out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean Wood had put out on Twitter the concept art sketches for the 4 Elder Elementals.
Mm-hmm.
And they're out there. You can go look for them. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And I was especially struck by the one for the Phoenix, which it's interesting because if you look at the art that ends up in the official book, it's evocative of that, but it's very different.
Yeah.
what he drew was way more stylized, and I was just immediately struck by how beautiful this image was. I'm like, well, I have to work this in somehow, and that's how Orc Hero was born. And I had no idea going forward in her life how any of that would matter.
Mhm.
Like, I hadn't had any plan when I gave Todd the brief on her, and, all right, well, this is what happened and this is what she kind of wants to do, but I don't have any answers. Do whatever you want to do. And
Yeah.
then lots of stuff happened.
She went through a little bit.
Yeah. So D&D happened, and to make several long stories short, she's been mutated a couple of times, and part of it was what I found out later is Todd's a Dragonlance fan and definitely wanted a Draconian in the story. I mean, that's not really what happened. That's basically what happened.
But it's believable.
Yeah. And she has become the character that has, over time, physically gone through a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And she used to worship Pelor and had switched to the Phoenix for bunches of oats of different reasons. And that whole relationship has evolved and changed over all of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been an interesting ride. And it culminated, I think, in writing the subclass that ended up becoming what I was playing for the last year on D4 and Heroes of the Plains, which is the Phoenix subclass, which I was super happy that, like, I wrote it for fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote it never expecting to actually play it, because especially on a stream, especially a more serious game like D4, you got to be careful with homebrew. And
Yeah.
I never want to be that player who's just like, hey, here's my character and here's all the homebrew stuff I've done.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
hey, it's my subclass and it's all my homebrew spells. I don't want to be that person. But after it had been out there for a while, and a bunch of the DMs, because there were a lot of DMs happening, because I had one over here and two over there and one over there, we're like, yeah, if you want to use this subclass, go for it. So that's what she's played, and that's what I've been using, and it's been
that
fun.
subclass has inspired there was a one-shot, Oops, All Phoenix Clerics.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely remarkable. Everybody did a great job on that, but it was really interesting to see you kind of run them through the paces of being tied to the Phoenix and what that meant.
Mhm.
That was a really well done one
Thank you.
shot. So bravo.
That's a testament to the players. Like, so Dustin was one of my playtesters
Mhm.
for the Phoenix subclass a very long time ago, and TTRP Gifts was one of the first people to play the subclass after it had been published. It's
Mhm.
out for free on D&D Beyond. Was one of the first people to play that subclass. Like, he played it before I did on a stream, so that was
Oh,
super
that's
cool.
awesome.
So yeah, he's got a character who's a Phoenix cleric, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I was really honored to be asked to DM that group. And I have always said that you can do an entire team of any class, but
Yeah.
especially clerics, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
to go as far as like, and they're all gonna be the same subclass. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah.
That's intense. That requires a good bit of balance to the class, because if you're going in with an OP subclass, you're going to run into a lot of problems running a game for nothing but that subclass.
Well, and I mean, this was a one shot, so I had a little bit more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really good about clerics in specific, even if they all pick the same subclass, is the spells that you get access to and the powers that you get access to. Once again, not even looking at the Phoenix cleric, but just in the regular subclasses that are available from 5e. There is such a variety that you have access to, and the flavor of what you do throughout the day, and it happened on it was stark on D4 versus Heroes of the Plains, as literally on Sundays, my build for Orkira on Sundays was different than my build for her on Tuesdays, and she kind of played different. And then when I played her on just recently on Court of the Raven Queen, my build for that was, and my play style, her play style was incredibly different, because I went into that game as the only one with healing. And so I came into it as like, all right, my job is healing and support. And Orkira just didn't attack at all. And she was fine with that. But like how she was outfitted and kitted was completely different. And the fact that clerics get that flexibility is super powerful. So yeah, I feel like not just the Phoenix subclass, any subclass, if you're going to have 2 players or 3 players or however many players who are going to play the same class and subclass, you can absolutely do it. It's not a problem for the DM. It's really a making sure that both of these characters are different enough that nobody feels like they're stepping on people's toes.
Right.
So that's the important part. And so it's a lot easier for the one shot, and where everybody's coming to this is, we're going to be Phoenix clerics. But even before that one, part of my session 0 is just like, hey, you want to all talk ahead of time about what kind of character you are, so that everyone doesn't come to the table with healing spells.
Right.
So you have a little bit of variety here. That's super important.
Well, and it was wonderful when you first came on to D4, because we had no healing. And
you had healing. You had Finley. You did
because
not have
when you
dedicated.
first showed up, I was the only one with healing as a paladin. I had lay on hands.
You're talking about that one shot when I showed
one
up as a
shot when you
guest.
first showed up, you were the only one with healing. When you showed up for the longer run, a couple of us had some healing spells, but we weren't in the healer mindset.
Yeah.
And that burned us a couple times, but then Orkira showed up and made everything better.
I wouldn't say made everything better, but you know,
most things.
I talked about this on D4 and after.
Yes.
But what I find the joy is in playing a support class, especially a cleric, is the mindset of, I'm not necessarily doing anything flashy or special. Maybe I'm dropping some hardcore healing, you know, in extreme situations, maybe I'm resurrecting someone. But my job is not as much to heal as it is to take that pressure off of, say, Seisha, you know, who has lay on hands. And if there wasn't somebody who was going to be the dedicated healer, you would be pulled in different directions.
Right.
You'd be like, well, I should go over here and heal, or should I go over here and smite?
Right.
Me being there, even if I'm sucking at it, means you can focus on smiting things. And smiting is important. Harold can heal, but he also has all this suite of bard powers.
Yeah.
And if I'm taking care of, you know, whatever I can to heal people, he can do his suite of bard powers.
Yeah.
So it's less about me doing anything outstanding, and it's more about the support character being there to take that pressure off of everybody else.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot when I...
Sorry?
I was going to say, I totally forgot when that guest stint when I first showed up that, yeah, you're right. Because Vinley hadn't taken a level in Cleric yet. And I don't think Harold had any healing spells on him. And that's why everybody was, like, so excited when I came down the stairs and was able to heal Voss. Because it's like, someone can heal!
Yeah. Oh my gosh! We might survive!
Yeah, that was funny. It was just like, you need your action and your movement to get all the way down the stairs. And then I could see Dustin and Devin, like, ready to move on. I'm like, and for my bonus action, wait, you can do that?
Wait, there's more?
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I thrive in those situations. And it's not for everybody, because you can go through combats, and if you're really into chunky combats, you can go through a combat and feel like you didn't do anything if you don't have that mindset. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Some people, the joy they get out of the combat is, I want to be the person who kills the big bad thing. I want to be the person who protects who goes in for the big flashy maneuvers.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always happen as a support character, but remembering that, like, oh, because I'm here, other people don't feel like they have to do healing. They can go do other things.
Yeah.
That's super useful.
And as a support character, you make those moments happen in a way, because if the person who wants to kill the big bad has to stop and heal themselves, they're going to miss out on getting that kill, whereas you as the support character can cast that healing spell and you enable them to do the big kill on the big bad. So it's one of those where even though you're not doing it directly, you still have a tremendous impact on the way the party functions and the achievements the party nets.
Well, it's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's all about. So
Yeah.
It's
How
exciting.
many shows has Akira appeared on at this point?
Oh dear. Okay, so she started on Heroes of the Veil, which was 2 seasons of about. The first season was 10 episodes. Second season was like 14. Then, if you count it as a second show, that morphed into Beyond Heroes, which is technically a different show. We added Freely to the cast. We added B-Dave, and the style of the show changed a little bit. And so Beyond Heroes we did kind of a season of one-shots, and then we did a season in Wildmount, and then we did kind of an ending season. And then she moved over to Silver and Steel, which was a stream that Jasmine Bular was running on D&D Beyond at the time, and it was wonderful.
Oh, I love her.
And so, oh yeah, she's just an amazing DM. So I got a chance to play with her. And then after that was when the dual D4 Heroes of the Plains happened. And so she was on... The timeline is after Silver and Steel, she went to D4 and spent months and months on D4 until she left, and then spent some time on the Elemental Plane of Fire, and then went to go Beyond Heroes of the Plains.
Right.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5, and then if you count the 5 episodes of Idle Champions Presents Court of the Raven Queen as more than just a one-shot, 6.
There's one more.
What did I forget?
Rivals of Waterdeep. She made an appearance on Rivals.
See, okay, she made an appearance, but I wasn't going to count that because that was just like a very quick thing. I'm trying not to count like one-shots.
Okay,
like
that's
fair.
Like
that moment is super special to me, but like I don't know if I'd count it as in the same way.
It's not playing on, but it was just an appearance.
Yeah. That was more of a that was more flavor.
Yeah. That was a warm fuzzy.
It was. That was such a good. I did not realize how much I needed that moment in specific at PAX Unplugged after the last couple of years that we've had.
Yeah.
Until afterwards, and I was just like, I'm gonna cry in a corner. I'm so happy right now. So.
Yeah. That was a wonderful experience, and your hi was so perfect. It was so perfect.
She's so casual.
She is, and I love her.
She has no idea about decorum.
No.
And also, of all the characters that were there, I think she's the only one who knew any of the rivals.
Yeah.
So that's when I was looking at like what I needed to say and how she would approach it. I'm like, oh, she's not coming here as like a representative of awesomeness.
Right.
She's coming here as a friend of Celise.
Yeah.
So that colors a lot of how she interacts with people.
Yeah. Well, now you're on a fairly new stream on Demiplane, Children of Erte.
Children of Erte, yeah.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about that campaign and your character, Neb.
Oof. So unlike Orkira, who I can talk at length about, I gotta be cautious about Neb because we're only on episode 6.
Yeah.
And very intentionally, this campaign there's a lot more mystery to these characters. So Debran Wall is our DM, and it's a homebrew-ish world. It's basically modern day, present day setting. So
Okay.
present day characters. So we are all humans in the real world who have um, gone on this adventure and are starting to learn a bunch of stuff and have things have happened.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff has happened. So what I'm trying to talk around things because we started off as just regular old humans in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to know. You don't know races, classes,
Yeah.
subclasses, magic, none of that. We've gotten far enough now in the adventure where if you've been watching, there's been a couple of hints. There's been a bunch of hints, actually. Um, and so magic stuff is starting to happen, and it's been fun to slow burn it.
Yeah.
Like, it's been really, really fun. And Neb is a character that I've been wanting, an archetype I've been wanting to play for a long time. Um, it hasn't come out as much in the game, but I have talked a little bit about, like, she comes from a happy family,
Mm-hmm.
and she is not a tragic backstory character.
Right.
She has a loving family who everyone's alive. She is not going on a quest to avenge anything.
Mm-hmm.
The impetus for her call to adventure is very much about personal growth and the desire to have a place in the world, to go
Mm-hmm.
do something. And I think we all kind of remember that those awkward moments in like Neb is 25, but those awkward moments in like high school and college, and for some people even post college, of I don't know what I want to do, I don't know
Yeah.
where I want to be. You know, if you're still figuring, a lot of people are still figuring that out,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not a it's not a bad thing. That's not a tragic backstory. That's just
Yeah.
kind of a natural thing. And so I've been really excited to explore that kind of character of, like, okay, if she's got a loving family and she's in a safe environment and she's relatively happy, what's the situation? What are the causes? What are the reasons that she would out on adventure and stay on that adventure? And
Yeah.
so for her, we're learning more about that as we go, but we're only in episode 6, so there's a lot more to do.
Yeah.
Um,
How many
yeah.
episodes are projected for the arc?
we're just on a roll.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it is
awesome.
it's an ongoing campaign, kind of like what Beyond Heroes was.
Yeah.
Here's the Plains.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In where when we started that up on Demiplane, there was not a finite number of episodes. It's
Mhm.
like, we're gonna finally get a chance to continue this story and come to an end
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
And so we're just wherever Deb wants to take us, we're gonna go. And yeah, the exciting thing about it is it's a very, I don't want to say it's a very slow burn, but it's a different kind of D&D story,
Mm-hmm.
and it's made me think a lot more about how I do certain things, and then it also brings back a lot of the joy of any power.
Yeah.
You know, not just I'm a level 1 squishy character who's almost died about 4 times, literally to a door once. Neb has almost died to a door. It's
To a
very
door.
cliche. To a door. Yeah.
Okay.
The mirror pane door, for those of you who've been watching. Yeah, she's the Neb only has I won't say exactly how many, but she's a first level character. And so it doesn't take much for it to be like, and she's down.
Yeah.
And Neb has rolled badly on her saving throws.
Oh no.
And yeah, and Deb has rolled really well on her damage. So there's been a couple times in where things have gotten really bad really fast, and the door was a challenge. So yeah, it is. But what I love about it is, like, okay, it's not just the level 1 and the I want to get out of level 1, because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people who've played a while in D&D, and especially higher level campaigns,
Mhm.
going back to level 1 can feel very limiting.
Yeah.
And the way this story is being told is helping that mindset, in where just finally casting a spell, especially since right now it's still very shrouded in mystery. You don't see people going Eldritch Blast and
Right.
all of this. You see the characters describing them doing something in a way that then appears to be magical, that can be, for a while, still talked about as though, oh, I just saw that wrong.
Nice.
The most recent episode was the first time that a bunch of us basically dipped our toe into we're doing fantastical things. We can't deny anymore that this is magic.
Yeah.
This is not a trick. This is not a game. This is not nanotechnology. This is magic.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, it's gonna be exciting to watch these characters unfold and find out more about them and see what happens when normal everyday people get shoved into a magic world.
How does it feel to be playing a new character after you've had such a long tenure with Orkira?
It's really good, because I love Orkira, and definitely now that I haven't been playing her for a while and I have another character that I've dived into,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me actually want to have a place to play Orkira again.
Yeah.
Because it's really, I think it's really important to have those kind of different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, I do DM on a regular basis, and so that helps a lot. But having a different character with different wants and desires, who is fulfilling different needs for me as a player,
Mm-hmm.
is really fun and interesting. And especially since I get to play her with a lot of the same people that I've been playing with for forever, because Hope, Jen, and Adam are on the show.
Yeah.
And so getting to redo our relationship stuff, with how our characters interact, and or with how our characters interact, which is different than how we've been interacting as characters for a while. That's been really super exciting and thrilling, and having the variety makes me also appreciate Orkira more. So I think it's been really good.
Nice. I'm gonna change gears a little bit.
Okay.
Because I wanna discuss some of the other stuff you're doing these days. You have a show called Paint and Slay on Codename Entertainment's Twitch channel, which you appear with V Muse on.
Yeah.
And you guys learn to paint. Well, she teaches you to paint minis. Did you have a lot of mini painting experience before this show, or?
Oh no.
No?
No, not much at all. So yeah, part of my job as the content coordinator over at Idle Champions is I do some streaming, I write blogs, I do a lot of the it sounds weird to just say I do a lot of content as a content coordinator. Yeah, sure. But some of it is less obvious than others. And so I have a couple shows, and Paint and Slay is, when V came on to work at C&E, it was one of those moments of like, okay, I'm going to ask her, because how can I not?
Yeah.
Like, how can I not ask her to do a paint show?
Yeah.
And I just need to make sure that she's got the time.
Right.
Because otherwise this is an easy sell. This is an easy sell to C&E of like,
oh, absolutely.
We have V. Let us show off V in all of the different ways she's amazing.
Skills.
Yeah.
She is remarkable, not only as a painter but as a teacher. I've watched some of the Paint and Slay, and she makes it not only look easy, but the way she describes the techniques actually makes it pretty. I'm terrible. I am not an artist, but I was able to follow along, and on some of the other ones she's done, I followed along and successfully painted a mini. So
yeah.
I like the contrast of you being fairly new to it and having the experienced artisan of V. And your conversation is very engaging and wonderful too. It's kind of like sitting there and listening to friends chit chat.
Well, that's because that's what it is.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She's my teacher, but she's also I'm honored to have her as a friend. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's been. I love that show, and yeah, I think I had painted maybe like half a dozen minis,
Yeah.
including some of the streams that V had done before she came on with us.
Yeah.
And never as anything major.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it. I always thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that I actually feel like I'm starting to learn how to do this and try out some different things. And it's really cool. And now you can't see it, but I got a whole shelf down there of minis
Nice.
I've painted. And I'm like, I'm actually running out of room. And
oh no, you're gonna have to get another shelf.
I know, right?
Yeah, you'll have to have a mini shelf.
More shelves. I mean, I did have a mini shelf, but up until Paint and Slay, it was all my PCs.
Yeah.
That because I usually don't play. I usually play Theater of the Mind, not with maps and everything, but I tend to get a mini of my player characters when I play them on streams.
Yeah.
So of course I got a couple Orkiras down there, but you know, I've also got a bunch of my characters from 4th edition. I've got Callie, who was my character on Silver and Steel before Orkira came over. Oh yeah. I'm just looking over. I'm like, who am I forgetting?
What all do I have?
yeah. Like, wait, which one was the Aarakocra? Oh yeah, that was the home game of Curse of Strahd that we played. And like, so yeah, and they were just displayed nicely. And that was less about look at my painting skill because I've painted 2 of them.
Oh. That's and it was 2 more minis of your characters than I've ever painted of mine, so you're winning.
Well, you know, I had a little bit of fun with it, so so now they're all displayed down there, and so now there's a dragon and a froghemoth and
nice.
A clown version of Xanathar.
I love the clown Xanathar.
Yes,
those came out brilliantly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous in all the best ways.
Right.
It's so good. It's so good.
Now, along the lines of art, you also host a C&E show, The Sketching Hour. What's that one about?
So that was actually the first show that I started when I first came on, because I came on as the community manager, and then within like a week they're like, so we got this idea for a show. And so Alexis and Michelle are 2 of the artists who work at Codename Entertainment, fabulous artists, and they wanted to do a stream of art, and basically the idea was, let's come up with something interesting that you can do in an hour, and as the host, I'm there for a bunch of different reasons. A lot of them is to engage with the chat while they're doing art, because at least at first, the 2 of them didn't even want to be on camera, and they were worried about what a lot of people are worried about when they're on stream, which is it's going to be silent and it's going to be boring. And I think watching artists create art is endlessly fascinating.
Oh,
I mean, I'm married to one. But like when you're on a stream, silence can be weird.
Yeah.
So my job is basically to talk to the audience, answer questions, to prompt them with questions, because when you get deep down into art, sometimes they get super focused, and then the next thing we know, it's 30 minutes later.
Right.
And then the conceit of the show is we have a rolling table chart, 20 different D&D monsters, 20 different adjectives, and 20 different cute animals, and each of us take a category, we roll d20s, and whatever we roll ends up being the creature that the 2 of them create on the fly in an hour.
Nice.
And it's the funny thing was our first couple of episodes, they were like racing to get done at the very end, and then relatively quickly we get to the end of an episode and the 2 of them are like doodling in the corner. They're like done already. They gotten so good at it. So we've changed it up a little bit. We've done some special episodes where we did other things. We literally today just did an Easter episode. So it was D&D monsters and then only one other category, which was just Easter words.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing a pastel. Oh God, it was several hours ago, and I can't remember what we did. It was a pastel T-Rex tulips. This was pastel T-Rex and tulips were the 3 things that they had to meld together.
That sounds awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go watch it. That sounds delightful. I'm now picturing like a T-Rex with a little basket skipping through a field of tulips.
I mean, you got the basket right. Yeah. And so a lot of the time what I'm doing while they're drawing is I'm soliciting names for these creatures. We're coming up with, hey, how did these creatures come to be? And now the running gag is, and it's not a wizard did it. We need something else. Not everything can be a wizard did it. So
it can't be the answer to everything.
No, we had it once.
Yeah.
It was once, and then that's it. And a couple times we've had a druid did it and a ranger did it, but I've been trying to steer chat away from magic did it.
Yeah,
and how else did this happen? And they're pretty darn creative, so it's been fun.
Stretch the brain muscles.
Exactly.
So if that wasn't enough with your plate, you also do a stream called Weekly Patronage for Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. Yeah. What's this one?
So that's a very straightforward show in my capacity as the content coordinator for Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. I literally just play the show, play the game. So a lot of the stuff on our channel, we have a whole suite of shows.
Yeah.
We have like 40 hours worth of programming at this point, and a lot of it is directly related to our game.
Mm-hmm.
The two shows that we talked about just before are like obliquely related. Paint and Slay is we specifically paint monsters who are in the game, but you know, and the Sketching Hour, while it's what they actually do isn't related to the game, but these are two artists on the game.
Yeah.
So Weekly Patronage is the game is behind me. And we're going to talk about the game and everything. And it's specifically on Mondays at noon because every single week there are patrons in the game that have challenges that when you complete them give you in-game currency so that you can get a bunch of stuff. It's kind of a mid to high tier part of the game to help you achieve a bunch of goals. And noon on Monday is when that changes over, when the new challenges come out.
Got it.
And so literally for 2 hours, we go through a bunch of the patrons. There's 4 of them in the game. I've got 3 adventuring parties, and so the chat picks which patrons I do.
Yeah.
Lately, we've been doing some more complex stuff, but previously it was like, okay, how do we fulfill the requirements for as many of these challenges as quickly as possible? And it's fun because it speaks a little bit more to my play style. Like a lot of the other shows are much more geared towards hardcore active play.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we're gonna adjust formations and we're gonna sit here and do things to help this be successful.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of people who also play Idle Champions who I call it set it and forget it. It's you come into the game and you do a bunch of things and then you let it go in the background while you answer email or other things. And so my show is slightly more geared towards those players with the idea of like, we're going to set all this up. And yeah, it's going to take 2 hours over the course of us talking and everything, but you could probably do this in like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the idea is you let it run and you come back a couple hours later and you collect all the rewards and then you go on and do something else.
Stuff.
Yeah. So it's showing some of the other ways that you can play the game. It's a little more because it's also geared towards this different objective that isn't always how far can we go and how powerful we can be. I'm constantly putting together suboptimal formations. I am constantly like, I have to tell people because we'll get new people into the chat who are like, are you sure you really want to use that group of characters and group of champions? And I'm like, well, if you want an optimal formation, no, this isn't going to work at all.
Right.
For what we're trying to do, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is fine. So
you by day work in the gaming industry, but your Twitter handle hints to the fact that you are also very passionate about the oboe. Your Twitter handle being Oboe Lauren. How long have you played? Just a little. How long have you played, and what has been your favorite piece to perform?
So, the fun thing is, I am by trade a professional musician. I have a bachelor's and a master's in music performance on the oboe.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I've been playing oboe since I was in 3rd grade. And
Wow.
up until about 4.5 years ago,
Hmm.
5-ish, depending on, yeah, 5-ish because Wizards of the Coast. Up until about 5 years ago, I basically I had a different day job. I
Hmm.
did something by day, and then I did as many gigs as I could by night. I'm a
Yeah.
freelance oboist because the vast majority of classical musicians, there's a very small percentage who work in your giant symphonies.
Right.
Around here, it's the Seattle Symphony. Those people are full-time employees and have all of the benefits that you get, and it's a secure kind of position.
Hmm.
But the vast majority of us are freelance. We have little gigs that we put together from all these little groups that play maybe only 3 or 4 times a year instead of week after week.
Right.
And so up until then, that's what I was doing. I would either have a full time or part time job during the day,
Right.
and then trying to make as much music as I could at night. And then it's only been relatively recently in my life that the day job has
Hmm.
been something that I've enjoyed as much as the music, which has been working in D&D essentially.
Right.
Um, as far as my favorite piece, it's, I knew this question was going to come up, and I still,
Hard to pick.
yeah, it's so because it changes. Like, what's my favorite piece to play versus what's my favorite piece to listen to
Hmm.
can be really different because there's music that I absolutely love to play that I would never listen to.
Yeah.
And there's music that I love to listen to that I hate playing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's hard. In general, Beethoven symphonies will always make me happy either way.
Hmm.
Um, the Overture to Candide by Leonard Bernstein is a
Mm.
favorite of mine.
Yeah.
It's so happy and joyous, and it is a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
Respighi has a bunch of stuff that's really fun. Most people know Respighi from Pines of Rome if you've watched Fantasia,
Oh.
the one with the
Oh.
whales.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that's Pines of Rome. Um, yeah, stuff like that, and then there's different pieces. So all those that I mentioned are ones that I love to both listen to and play.
Hmm.
Um, I got a chance recently, because there haven't been many gigs. Huh. Wonder why.
Yeah.
But I did have a gig recently, and by recently I mean like a month and a half ago at this point.
Hmm.
We played the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto,
Okay.
and that's one of those pieces in where there's a moment at the beginning of it in the first movement that I think a lot of people would recognize, and I'm not going to hum it because that would be bad.
Mm.
But there's no oboe part. It's piano and strings, and
Yeah.
when the strings come in, they're low, and it's just silky and rich, and it's just this amazing moment that is one of those moments that gives me chills every time I even think about it.
Nice.
And so that's like, I'm not necessarily a fan of the entire piece,
Mhm.
but that part of that movement never fails to like bring tears to my eyes. It's just,
Nice.
and I don't play in that at all. I'm sitting there just
Yeah.
doing nothing. So
Just
yeah.
taking it all in.
Yeah, feeling the stage vibrate
Yeah.
is a unique experience that I have missed dearly.
I believe it. I believe it. Goose Rune was wondering, does your experience with the oboe make it so you wish more bards took up wind instruments over the common choice of lute?
No, because I totally understand that if you're going to be an instrumental bard, that wanting to be able to talk at the same time is kind of important.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, I actually avoided bards for a very long time because I didn't want to be that musician.
Yeah.
And I do try to encourage people to play bards all the time, and being a musician bard is super cool,
Hmm.
but to try to play different types of bards. Go be an artist bard, go be a storyteller bard, go be a swordsman bard, go,
Right.
that kind of stuff. But yeah, I totally get the, I want to be able to vicious mockery someone as I am playing my instrument.
Right. I'm gonna
It's hard to
strum
do.
and mock you.
Yeah, that's hard to do on an oboe,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Also, I kind of do wish that there were more official instruments listed
Yeah.
in the book, because I know that a lot of people, they use the player's handbook as a guideline, and there's so many cool instruments that
Yeah.
are just not in that book
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
work so well. So,
I'm gonna jump back to tabletop real quick because Maverick 2 would like to know what TTRPGs besides 5e do you like to play, and do you get to play often?
uh, to be honest, I don't get to play often other TTRPGs, and that's partially my fault, I will admit. And partially I'm blessedly busy with 5th edition. Um, the one that I wanted to play the most, actually, I got a chance to play, which was 10 Candles.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, so when we started Heroes of the Veil and our first session 0 happened, I got a chance to meet, because Jen Kretschmer and Hope Lavelle, and like, I didn't know them personally. They were just, I knew them professionally, but
Yeah.
we had never met. And so that was our first time getting together. And Jen likes to joke that within 5 minutes she was already pushing 10 Candles on me. And that's
Yeah.
not wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say I believe that.
yeah. And she has been talking about 10 Candles literally for years. And I really wanted to play it, but that's a very specific situation.
Yeah.
And so we finally got a chance to play it on D4 with Jen, which is perfect.
Yes.
So that was super cool. The other one that I've wanted to try, I got a chance to play a one-shot that was a vampire game, but I liked to. So Dustin and Ellie Collins had me on Atlanta
ATL by night.
Yeah, ATL by night. And I loved it. It was great. But I like to joke that, like, okay, I play D&D, and all of the characters that I play are the non-humanoids. They're as far away from human as possible. And I come onto vampire, and what do I play? The human.
Right.
I played a game of vampire as the human. And it was an incredible experience. I love it. But I would like a chance to play as a vampire and get, like, the full experience. But more than that, I think vampire for me would be fun in a short bit, because I like going that dark in fits and spurts, but I can't stay there too long.
Right.
I enjoy D&D campaigns that dip in and out of those emotions. They're like, all right, this is kind of the dark and gritty stuff, and we're going to be, like, here's the plains. We went to Barovia. We went to, and we were there for a little while, and we got to experience that kind of horror element, and then we came out of it and we did funny things.
Yeah.
So I feel like a short little vampire experience would be fun. But what I think I might really enjoy in the same world of darkness is Werewolf.
It's a great game.
Werewolf seems like it has a tiny bit more humor and lightness to it, even though it's still World of Darkness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to try that.
Yeah, it's a fun game. I highly recommend it. But we're going to jump topics again and get to the meat here.
Ooh.
Let's talk
It's
dice.
time for dinner? Oh, dice. Hey,
dice.
The reason that I came on the show is you're doing a dice show. I should talk about dice. Yeah.
I am curious. Approximately how many sets do you think you own?
So you prepped me for this question, and it was funny because I had one of those moments of like, oh crap, okay, and I literally had to go count.
Yeah.
And this is approximate, and mostly because I try not to own any dice that either don't have some sort of significance or that I use. I've actually gotten rid of sets of dice that I love that don't have any personal significance that I've never used before. I'm just like, these are pretty. Go away to someone who's going to use you.
Right.
So in total, I have 12 full sets.
Nice.
And then a random collection of single D20s and D6s. And they are, once again, you can't really see it, but they are all displayed over here.
Yes, excellent.
Background.
What would you say is your favorite set? And I'm going to show off your dice while we're chatting about this.
So my favorite set is actually one of the first sets that I ever got, and it's this one that's going to come up, the silver set. So the story behind this set, this is a heavy metal set of dice. Um, Literally 10 years ago, when I first moved out to Seattle, and back when PAX West was still PAX, back when it was still 4th edition, um, I'd been playing 4th edition for a little while, but I already knew, like, oh, I kind of want, like, a heavy metal set of dice.
Okay.
And there was no such thing as most of the dice companies that we know and love right now. None of that existed. You would just go to PAX and ChessX would be there and they're wonderful. And then maybe they would have, most of their dice would be the wonderful plastic that they have. But then maybe they would have like a metal set or something. And I was like, I really want. And we're wandering around PAX and there was one of the vendors had this, what they called dwarven ore. I know it's not dwarven ore.
Sure.
We still don't know what this set is, but it's this brushed silver set, and it is the only set of dice that I've ever felt that is heavier than this is some of the tungsten dice.
Yeah.
It's got weight to it. And at the time it was $50, which now is like a steal for a metal set.
Yeah.
But at the time, when most people were spending $7-8 on a box of the plastics, you're gonna spend $50 on dice. And I was poor because I just moved out and everything. So I'm like, oh, these are gorgeous. I love them. I'm gonna DM for the first time with my group and blah blah blah. But I can't. Not $50. And my lovely partner Luke went behind my back and bought them for me. And literally, we're wandering around on the last day of PAX, and he pulled them out of his pants because he wears cargo pants. And so that was literally one of the first sets of dice I ever got. And it's this heavy metal silver set, and it's gorgeous, and it's simple, and it's super easy to read, and they're nice and heavy. And literally for years, this is all I used. When I DM'd, I used it. When I played, I used it, which drove some people wonky. They're like, you use the same set of dice that you DM with, that you play with? I'm like, yeah. Because I don't have any dice superstitions. They're clacky math rocks that are random. Yeah. And sometimes your randomness sucks, and sometimes your randomness is great. I don't use dice jail. I don't do any of that. So I stick with the partner I came with, and I dance with them all night.
Nice.
So yeah, that is by far my favorite set for both personal and just, they're so heavy and good.
How do you pick your dice? Is it appearance or by character or?
I had never picked character dice until halfway through my run as Orkira. I mostly picked it by mostly how they looked, and then also how they felt. I've almost never bought any resin dice simply because they're super pretty, but if I'm gonna roll physical dice, I want that weight.
Yeah.
So most of the time, when I've picked dice that I'm going to buy, they've literally been like, oh, these are really pretty. They have to be a pretty that I enjoy, because there's plenty of pretty dice out there that are just not my kind of pretty. They have to be easy to read in a way that I can read them, which once again, some people have an easier time reading dice than others. And they have to have some weight to them. And if those three things come together, then I'm like, gimme. And then I keep them if, like I said, if they are sentimental to me, or if I am using them in a game. Otherwise, I don't like having dice that are display dice. I can't explain why.
I can't claim the same thing.
But that's okay. You collect dice for a different reason. I don't really collect dice. I just have, because I work in this industry, a really nice collection of them. And Orkira was the first time I ever bought dice. I didn't go out looking for Orkira dice. Yeah. I saw them and I was like, welp, these are the dice I'm now going to roll for Orkira forever. And those are, I got them at Level Up. They're technically the bronze set. but they
Okay.
look gold, and they're heavy metal bronze, and they look gold, and I'm like, these are gorgeous, these are mine.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
so, on much of Beyond Heroes and Heroes of the Plains, Beyond Heroes especially, these are the dice, the gold ones that I'm using.
Hmm.
Um, if you want to be sentimental about it, these are the dice that saved Orkira's life, because that was the moment that I rolled the natural 20 on my final death saving throw before I got killed by the Elder Brain.
Yeah.
The one that I because once again we're using physical dice, and when that kind of thing happens, you're not thinking, and I grabbed the camera to show the dice.
Right.
Like, I remember afterwards thinking, like, oh, that doesn't prove anything, like,
Yeah.
but
I've
I
had
was so excited.
I've had that moment when we were streaming on D4 when we were remote. I don't remember what it was, but I rolled a crit on something and I was like, no, look! And I pulled my camera off and shut it off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's happened with when I've been rolling on D&D Beyond, which I love using the digital dice roller.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't think people are going to believe me. It's so that everyone else can see it at the same
Celebrate.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was that time on D4 where I rolled something with disadvantage and I got 2 natural 20s in a row, and I was just like,
So
I think
amazing.
it was an
I
Arcana
think
check.
yeah, it was some sort of check because you were like, I never do well with this skill check, and you
Yeah,
rolled
it
two
was one of
20s.
my intelligence checks. So
Yeah.
I'm like, so even with the natural 20, I'm like, it's a 19, but hey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
am that I do have a little bit of sentimental value towards these, because not only are they're kind of my Orkira dice, but they are specifically the ones that saved her life. So it's hard not to feel a little
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take a moment, if you don't mind. I want to show off one of the things that I want to do with this show is help promote Kickstarters and crafters within the community. So I
Yeah.
want to take a few minutes to real quick discuss one of the coolest Kickstarters I've seen in a while, the Levitating D20.
Yeah.
This is the Levitating Dice Kickstarter. I apologize for the camera quality. It's not working well with me this evening, but this is a prototype. This
So
is
cool.
actually sitting next to me, and as you can see, it hovers and just rotates from air currents. You can stop it, and it'll just stay in position. I can't reach it to do that at the moment, but
I love how it speeds up and slows down. Like,
yeah.
as it turns, you just like it's slow, and now it's gonna speed up a
It's
little
gonna
bit.
speed
It's
up a
like,
little bit.
what is going on?
It is so cool in person. I will say it took me a couple tries to be able to line up because it does work with magnets, as you're probably thinking.
Hmm.
And it took me a few tries to get it to line up, but once you get it the first time, it becomes so much easier. I can get it every single time now.
Oh, good.
Um, and I am a huge klutz, so it took me a little while, but once I got it, I got it. They have a variety of bases, and the details are all in the Kickstarter. Which, if you check chat, there is a link there to check it out. There are 6 days left on this Kickstarter. It ends on the 19th. So if you are interested, now is the time to pop on over there and get your support in for this amazing item. And yeah, I've been captivated by this thing. There have been several days where I was playing a computer game and I just kind of glanced over to my left where I've had it sitting and just kind of stood there staring at it. So
It is kind
it's a
of the
very
TT.
neat.
Yeah, it's the TTRPG version of a lava lamp, isn't it?
It is. Yes, that is a wonderful way to put it. That is an
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful way to put it. Lauren, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for joining me on the first episode and for working with me to get this going. You have been an absolute delight. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for being here this evening. You were wonderful. I appreciate all of you.
And
And
we appreciate you, and thank you so much for having me. And it's been an honor and a pleasure, and thank you for letting me talk so much. I talked a lot.
you're welcome. I enjoyed listening. You are
Aw.
a fabulous orator. I do want to throw out a really quick thank you to D&D Jordan Lee and Ashenworks, who both helped me with getting stuff set up. Jordan actually did the intro that you saw for the intro video, so mad props to both of them. But I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being here, and let's see, we should raid somebody. Who do we want to raid?
That's a good question.
Should have had this pulled up.
Ooh, Dungeon Scrawlers is on.
Dungeon Scrawlers?
Yeah, so Dungeon Scrawlers is so Aaron M. Evans and a whole bunch of other published authors play D&D on Wednesdays, and they've had a long-running campaign going, and they're called Dungeon Scrawlers. And I've been fortunate enough to play with them once or twice and DM for them, and they are lovely. And I believe Erin is actually DMing tonight. She usually plays, but I believe she is DMing. So.
Oh, wonderful! All right.
Oh, there we go. Jordan's got it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan.
I believe they are live right now.
And I put the wrong command. Go figure.
Oh no. Yeah, but I would love to go raid them. Aww.
All right. Well, we are going to raid them. Thank you so much for the recommendation, Lauren. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And y'all, thank you again. Have a wonderful night. And remember, either be good or don't get caught. Bye, y'all.
I love it. Either be good or don't